Hare Krishna. I'm Giri Das. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. I'm 21 years old. I'm from USA, America. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. I came to Krishna Consciousness about 3 years ago. And it was a pretty crazy story, I have to say. When it all started, before I actually knew about Krishna Consciousness, I was born Christian in a very strict Christian family, Pentecostal. So I used to go to church every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I grew up pretty religious, I would say. But even though I grew up religious, I wasn't so, intrigued by Christianity itself, because I had many doubts, had many questions that they couldn't answer. So as I was growing up, as I got older, I started to question a lot of things from the Bible and about many things that didn't make sense to me. So I started to ask my mom and my pastor about different questions, for example, one of the questions I would ask was, what about people who are born in different parts of the world? Let's say like Africa or India or wherever it might be. They might be born in some village, but they might never heard of Jesus or never heard of the Bible. So what about these people? Like, what happens to them? And the reply I got from my pastor and mother wasn't so amazing. They said that, of course, they go to hell. So when I found that out, I wasn't so happy about that. And I just thought it was like, what is this? It's like, it's not so much philosophy there. So I became very dissatisfied. And I actually became an atheist. I kind of gave up religion completely after I found this out. Now, I wasn't against learning though. So as I was growing up, I had many friends from different backgrounds. Like I had most of my friends were Muslim actually, Muslim and Buddhist and whatever. Like I actually never, in New Orleans, there's not many Indian people. So I actually never ran into an Indian until I went to Atlanta. But anyway, I went to school and I was very much into science, and I was, very big in promoting atheism. Every time my mom would speak about Jesus, I would just tell her, no, this is not true at all. I said, what is this? It doesn't make any sense. So I was I like space a lot because, of course, scientists with their mundane knowledge, we get to understand everything, what we can see. So I was very much into this type of stuff. But then as time went on, actually, most of my life, I never did anything per se. Like I never did any partying or drugs or until later on, until I got to high school, like my last year of high school. And then once I came to high school, I got more and more friends from eastern part of the world. And like I said, most of my friends were Muslim. So like I was saying, I wasn't adverse to learning. So actually, I like to learn. I wanted to know truth from all parts. So I wanted to learn about this Eastern culture that my Muslim friends were born into, because I already knew everything about Christianity, and I wasn't so satisfied with it. So I wanted to know about Islam and Buddhism and Taoism, whatever it might be. All this, all these other religions I wanted to know about. And when I was going to school, I had all these friends, and they would invite me over to their home, and they used to tell me about Muhammad and the Quran. And actually, one time I went. It was Eid, and during Ramadan, actually, they used to get me to fast with them. So actually, I fasted for Ramadan when I was with them, and they also took me to the masjid. So I also went to the masjid and they did namas, and they taught me how to do namas, and I had to wash my feet and all that. I thought it was pretty, for me, it was like a different thing. So I was like, whoa, this is like pretty different. And what I took from that was that, even though it was completely different to me, I wasn't adverse to it. I thought it was actually very nice, actually. I can actually, in my mind, I wasn't going to accept the Quran, or I wasn't going to accept, because I was the atheist. But, I could definitely tell that, okay, these people are more God conscious than Christian people, at least in one sense, because they have better culture. So like that's what I thought when I hung out with them, that these people have better culture than the Americans, because Americans, they have no culture at all. There's no etiquette at all when it comes to Americans. So I when I saw that, I kind of took aback, and I was like, okay. So as I hung out with them, I kind of became a little bit more God conscious. And so as I hung out with them more and more, I even though I was atheist, I was still saying Allah, and I would like stuff like that. Like I would say Assalamu alaikum to them, like that. So over time, they would kind of preach to me a little bit. Now, I wasn't going to become a Muslim, but I was not adverse to learning what they had to say. So as time went on, I got other friends as I was in high school. Probably my junior year of high school, the last part of my junior year of high school, I got some more friends, and now these friends were a little bit more crazy. They weren't so they were not so religious, I guess you can say, yeah. So, but they were very they like to party a lot. So naturally, of course, due to association, actually I never really partied until I met them. So then I started partying, and then I did a lot of sinful reactions, said a lot of sinful things I did now. And even though I was doing all these sinful activities, I thought they would make me happy, because I was doing these because, I wanted more friends. I wanted more women to be attracted to me. I wanted all these different things that everyone wants. But I wasn't actually satisfied at all. Actually the opposite happened. Actually, I became more dissatisfied, and I became more stressed and more anxious because even though I actually had everything I ever wanted, like, okay, I got this beautiful girl, I have this nice job now, I have all these friends I can hang out with, I'm doing this nice partying, but I really wasn't satisfied, not in the slightest, actually. I remember actually specifically every day I would come back from work or school or from hanging out with my friends. I would lay down in my bed and I would look at my ceiling, and I would remember, like, is this really the goal of life? Like, is this really all there is just to like get a job, pay some bills, and die? Like, you just have that was it. I was just like completely confused. I wasn't satisfied. I was like, even though I had all these friends and family members and women, whatever, I had all these people around me, I still felt alone. I didn't really feel like there was like something. I didn't feel like there was anything there. Something in my heart I knew something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. So at that point, when I started hanging out with these party people, I started to believe in God again. But that's because I took a lot of drugs. So, and I just had there was this one far experience that I had the first time I took psychedelics. After that, I realized that this universe is so huge, and it's not possible for this to come from nothing. I don't know. I just had that realization, and I just I knew God was real, but I didn't know who He was. So I came to the conclusion that there is a higher power, but I don't know who He is. I don't know. And I kind of, at that point, I was kind of like looking into like world history and geography and archaeology and like different religions and stuff like that. So I was kind of piecing everything together. And in my mind, I knew that, okay, all these different religions, they're worshiping God. They're worshiping the same God, but they don't know it. So actually, I came to that conclusion from whatever studying and all this. But I didn't know who God was. I didn't know what He looked like. I didn't know His name. I didn't know anything. I said, okay, there's a higher power, but I don't know who He is. And so, as I continued hanging out with these people, one of my party friends, he actually worked at a intoxication shop, a smoke shop. And I used to go there all the time to hang out with him and my other friends because they worked there. And one day I went there and I was just stopping by. Like I wasn't going to be there for very long, maybe only like 5 minutes, just to say hi and then go. I had to go back to work. But what ended up happening was I stayed there for a little bit longer than it needed to be. But because of that, there was this man, his name is Junior. He came, my friends called him the Mushroom Man because he did a lot of, he grew magic mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. So he came into the shop, and as soon as all my friends, they knew who he was. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who this man was. But he came in, and he hasn't seen everyone in such a long time. So he was like, hey, what's going on? Nice to see you. But he came in and he's like, hey guys, can I tell you something? He instantly started preaching about Bhagavad Gita and yoga and karma and reincarnation and all these different things. So most devotees, they get a book when they come to Krishna Consciousness, but actually I didn't get a book. The first experience of Krishna Consciousness was me inside of a smoke shop. so it's probably the best place to get the mercy because I was definitely falling like anything. So he came in and he started preaching about Bhagavad Gita, and all my other friends, they were not interested in what he had to say. But I was interested because I was learning about this stuff and I wanted to learn more on what he had. And what he had to say was, it made so much sense. It was like, okay, like I always heard of reincarnation, but I always heard it in like movies and shows and like stuff like this in cartoons. Like I thought reincarnation was very amazing and very cool, but I never actually thought it was like a real thing. Like I never thought it was a fact. It's like I never took it as a fact. But the way he was saying he was like saying as if it was like a fact. And I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. So he was speaking about all this, and he saw that I was interested. So he kept talking about these different topics of Krishna consciousness. And he said, let me show you something. So I said, okay. And during this time, I don't remember everything, mainly because I was definitely intoxicated also. But he brought me back to his car, and I went to his car, and he showed me this book, and it was Krishna book, The Supreme Personality Godhead. And he showed me he was flipping through the book, and I was like, wow, this is like really beautiful, And I don't know what this is, but it looks pretty cool. That's what I thought. And there's one picture that is like I always remember from that book, from what he showed me, and it's the picture of Krishna being held in the lap of Mother Yashoda, and I still remember that picture to this day from when he showed me it. And I was like, wow, this is very beautiful. When I saw Krishna, I was like, I don't know who this is, but he's very beautiful. That's what I thought. And then after that, I didn't see him again for a while. But for somehow or another, from hanging around, these party people, I eventually kept meeting him over and over again. I would meet him over and over again in places where I never thought I would meet him. I would meet him here and there and everywhere. And I was very confused. I was like, why do I keep meeting this man? And I just thought, okay, it must be because of providence. It must be for some reason that I'm meeting him. So I took it as a sign. And I asked him, I was like, can I just get your number? We can hang out like this. So I got his number, and we started hanging out. And there was the first time I went to an ISKCON temple was ISKCON New Orleans. He brought me there to get some prasadam. I still remember what I had. It was rice dal, chapati, some sabji, and I think that was it. That was the first time I took prasadam. But I was only there for like 2 minutes. We just went there to get prasadam, and then we left. So we got prasadam. We got a plate for me, himself, and my other friend. That was the first time I ever took prasadam. It was pretty good. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember it was good. And then after that, I do remember the second experience, because this is the first time I ever went to a Sunday feast. And now this is crazy. So one day we I only hung out with him a couple times, and it was like the third or fourth time I'm hanging out with him, and we arranged to have a psychedelic mushroom trip. Like, we basically took intoxication mushrooms together, and so we took these mushrooms, and we were like, for about 6 to 8 hours, we were just talking about Krishna and like Jesus and like God, basically. Now, at that time, I definitely felt very spiritual, but I definitely wasn't, anyway, so spiritual, but I guess we were talking about Krishna, so it wasn't all that bad. But anyway, after we were coming down from the drugs, it was a Sunday. So he said, "Why don't we go to the temple?" I was like, "That's an amazing idea. I feel great right now." So we go to the temple, and the Sunday feast is happening. And I still remember me visiting there to this day. And the first we get there, we arrive at the ISKCON New Orleans temple for the Sunday feast. And the first thing we do is go to the temple room. And there's a Prabhupada disciple. I don't remember his name, but there was a Prabhupada disciple giving a class. So there was a lot of Western people there too. Western people and Indians, they were all sitting, listening to the lecture. And I was very confused because I didn't know what was going on. And I just remember him sitting there, and then there was all this crowd here. And then behind over there is the deities. And I remember seeing the deities, and I was like, wow. I taken aback. I was like kind of like a little shocked, I guess you can say. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it seems kind of cool. I was a little like shocked. I didn't know it was kind of like a culture shock, you know? I was like a little confused what's going on, but like, I was like, okay, I'm here to learn. So I still stayed. And then after we left the temple room, it was prasadam time. They were serving prasadam. So we were waiting in line for prasadam. And we finally got prasadam. We sat down. It was we sat around. It was me and him, and there was other two Western people that were sitting next to us, and there's many other people sitting around us. And we had pakora, puris, halava. I don't remember all the items, but I specifically remember the pakora because there's this instance. By the way, this is the first time I'm ever taking ISKCON Sunday Feast, and I'm still kind of on drugs. So I take this. It's cauliflower pakora. I take this cauliflower pakora, and the first thing I say, usually I don't say this, I don't know why, but I said this, but during that time I said this, and everyone is around me, and I said it out loud. I was like, wow, this is the best meat in the world. And then everybody was like, what is, everyone was like shocked, you know, they look at me like, what is this guy saying? You know, no, you know, because everyone's vegetarian, everyone's vegan, whatever. And I'm like, you know, this is the first time I ever come in, and like my friend Junior, who brought me, he was like, no, this is not meat. This is actually, we're all vegetarians. This is all vegetarian. And when he said that completely blew my mind, because my only conception of vegetarianism is like salad. I never I've eaten meat my entire life, so I never really tried anything outside that. And once I tried this, I was like, wow, this is amazing, you know? So that after that experience, I completely like changed my whole perspective on like prasadam and vegetarianism like that. So I was like, wow, yeah. When I tasted that, I was like, yeah, it changed my mind a lot. And so like as time went on, I would keep hanging out with my friend Junior. He would bring me to the temple. We would always go together to the temple. And then I remember, but my other friends, they knew him and they were friends with him, but actually they didn't like him very much because he was like spiritual and like they're pretty materialistic. So I would hang out with the materialists and my friend Junior. They didn't like me hanging out with him, but they liked me, so they had to deal with it. But as time went on, there was always some conflict going on. And I remember this specifically. There was this concert that I was waiting for months, and it was a huge concert in New Orleans, and all my friends and I was going. But that same day that I was going to the concert was also the first time I ever went to there's a New Orleans ISKCON, and there was also Mississippi ISKCON. It's called New Taliban. It's a farm community. So there's the farm and there's the city temple. There's two temples. They're actually, the deities are called the same. They're called Sri Radha Radha Kanta. So same names for both deities. So they're sisters. But anyway, I used to go to both of these temples all the time. They're only 1 hour away. So I used to go to the farm all the time. And the first time I went there was also the exact same day. The first time I went there was the exact same day that concert was. So in the morning, I went to the temple, and I was like, I felt like I was I still vividly remember, we were driving from over the bridge. We were driving across this bridge, because you have to drive across this bridge to get to the other side of Mississippi. So like this, we were driving, and as I was driving, I would look back, and I can see the city behind me, which was huge New Orleans. It looked like very dark, like cloudy and nasty, and you can just sense like some tamagun, you know? So, but as we were going to the farm, like as we got closer and closer to Krishna's palace, Krishna's place, I felt like as if it was like, wow, this is like, I feel like I'm in a different world, you know? I'm only 1 hour away, but I feel like I'm in a different world. It's like so peaceful, so beautiful, so nice. And so when we arrived there, immediately I felt a sense of peace. I felt like, wow, this place is completely different. And I was like very shocked, because the people there, most people there actually are Prabhupada disciples, and they're senior devotees who have been practicing for over 40, 50 years, like that. So most of the people who live on the farm, they're actually all senior devotees. And I was looking at them, and I was spending time with them, and I was just completely shocked, because these people have basically nothing. They have just a little house. They have, they're wearing dhotis and kurtas and saris, and they, live a very simple life. There's not much to do. I mean, of course, there's a lot to do in Krishna service, but materially, like in my material perspective at that time, I was like, there's nothing to do out here, like, so, but I was so shocked. But these people, every devotee I met, they were like, their smile, the way their presence was, it was just completely euphoric. It was like completely like mesmerizing. Just spending time with them felt like I was in heaven. So I was like, wow, these people are so happy and they have nothing. And that's what really like changed my mind. Spending more time there was that I was living in this big city trying to get all this, but I wasn't happy at all. But these people who have absolutely nothing I feel like they have everything. And it's like, wow, so that's what really like changed my mind, is associating with senior devotees like the Prabhupada disciples and senior devotees who have been practicing for so long. So anyway, when I spent that whole day there, that day, I felt like I was blissed out. But I was still thinking about this concert, like, oh, I still need to go. So then we leave, and I have a blissful experience there. Then we leave, go back to the city. And now it's time for the concert. And so I'm with my materialistic friends now. And so we all go to the concert. And of course, the first thing I do, I was literally in the spiritual world, and now I'm going to this hellish planet. That's what it felt like. And so like immediately, as soon as I get with my friends, we start drinking, intoxication, and all this and that. And so then we get inside to the concert, and the concert's about to start. And at first, I felt like, wow, I feel like I'm blissed out materially, And then when the concert starts, I vividly remember there's this huge screen, what is it? I forget. Anyway, this huge screen, LED screens, LED screens that they have in the background that have images pulled up, and they have the famous musician there, and then it had all, like, in the background they had all these demoniac images in the background, and all these people are just jumping and wailing, and like, I just like, for somehow or another, I was actually intoxicated, but somehow I became sober like immediately. I became sober super fast. I don't know why, but I just became, usually it takes me time to be like, get off, but like I became sober really fast. Like I felt like the intoxication like just went away. And then I realized I was like, whoa, I was just in heaven and now I'm in hell. And then I'm like, where am I? I was like, this is insane. Like, I feel like I'm like in hell right now. I literally felt like I was in hell. And there's just like, when I became sober, I kind of just like left the concert and I just waited until it was over. I couldn't go home because my friends were my ride. So I just waited for the concert to be over. And after that day, ever since that day, I stopped listening to Karmi music. And ever since that day, from that point on, I just listened to Kirtan. That was it. I actually gave up listening to Karmi music because I just realized that, whoa, this music, this style, this culture is super demoniac. After going to that concert that one time, I was like, this is super demoniac. And I don't want to do this anymore. So I actually gave up listening to Karmi music after that and started listening to only Kirtans. And because during that time I kind of knew Kirtan. Of course, I kind of chanted some things because Junior was showing me. And yeah, I just completely like, my friends were confused, like, what's wrong? Why are you not doing like this? I was just like, wasn't satisfied. And yeah, I felt like as if Kirtan was better to my ears. So I just completely stopped listening to all that. And then as time goes on, slowly but surely, I started like losing my friends slowly. Like Krishna, when you come to Krishna consciousness, Krishna like slowly takes everything away from you. And like, that's kind of what happened to me. Krishna like took away my friends slowly. First he took away my girlfriend, then he took away my friends, then he's taking away my money. So as I kept going to the temple, like I saw all these things kind of happening. And then like, so like that, the first thing I gave up was actually illicit sex, because when I broke up with my girlfriend, I wasn't interested in getting another one or performing more illicit sex. Because during that time, actually, there's this guy named Andrew Tate. He's a very famous guy, mundane famous guy. But I used to listen to him, and I was inspired to try to practice celibacy. So I wanted to practice celibacy when I was before I joined the ashram. I wanted to perform celibacy because I performed so many sinful activities and I wasn't satisfied, and I wanted to better myself. So I started to practice this, and there was a big movement during that time where so many young men were performing this and coming together to have real real strength, as they say. So I started to practice this, and I was very satisfied. Actually, I was very happy. That was the first thing I gave up, and then the next thing I gave up. I never gambled really, and then next thing I gave up was meat eating. And how I did that was by, of course, not myself, but Srila Prabhupada's mercy through his disciples. I would go to the farm with Junior all the time, and I remember there's this one senior devotee. His name's Maury Gupta Prabhu. He was there at New Talavan, and he would show me how to play instruments. He would show me how to do kirtan. He would show me how to play kartals, and he was trying to show me how to play mridanga and stuff. Now, I wasn't so good at it, so it was kind of hard, but he was still showing me. He was very patient. He was very nice. He had a sweetheart. And he would give me prasadam, and he would tell me stories about his spiritual master, and he would tell me stories about Lord Rama and what his name meant, Maury Gupta Hanuman, like this. So, yeah, we we would spend a lot of time together on the farm, and he would show me the very loving nature of how calves and cows are. And I would spend a lot of time with the cows, and it was very heartwarming, because I was able to understand that, okay, these animals, they're not just animals, they actually have souls inside the calves and cows, and they actually have feelings, they have emotions, they have consciousness. And I can see that these cows and calves were very affectionate towards the devotees. So I was very taken aback because Maury Gupta Prabhu was preaching to me that, these animals, they're just like babies. The babies, they don't have so much intelligence, but they still have emotions and consciousness and like this. So similarly, the cows and calves also. So it's just like a baby. So I was very taken aback, and I was very, I realized that like what I'm doing is wrong. And associating with those cows and calves, I eventually gave up meat eating, because every time I looked at meat, I would just think about those cows, and like I couldn't do it anymore. So then I became a vegetarian, and then after that, actually the hardest one was to give up was intoxication, because all my friends did it. But eventually I gave that up too, because I realized that it wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for my spiritual life. Maharaj Gupta Prabhu would preach to me, saying that all these things were bad. And one day I was about to light, a marijuana. I was about to light and smoke. But as soon as I was about to perform this act, I immediately realized like what Maharaj Gupta Prabhu's instructions were to me. And I just threw it on the ground. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So from that day, I gave up intoxication. And so slowly but surely, I was able to follow all these. And I remember when I was in high school, I was still in high school during all this time. And I was in class, and I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember. He was some famous Indian man. I don't remember his name. But I was listening to this podcast, and he was talking about the 4 regulative principles. And I wrote it down in my notebook, and I showed it to my teacher, and I told her I want to follow these 4 eventually one day. And she was shocked, because she told me that no young person like you would ever want to do this. But she says she actually encouraged me to do it. She's like, yeah, please, you do it. I encourage you to do it. So I was very happy. And then a couple months later, I actually started practicing it somehow or another by Krishna, because of the association of devotees ultimately. Because over time, I just kept associating with the devotees from New Talavan, all these, exalted senior devotees, the Prabhupada disciples. They gave me their association. I was performing service there too. So I was being cleansed over time. And as I associated with them, then I eventually was able to follow all the 4 regulative principles. I wasn't chanting 16 rounds yet. I would chant like 2-3 rounds every day before going to school. And I remember vividly, there was one day I didn't chant any rounds. And I realized my whole day was like really hard. Like I would chant 2-3 rounds before going to school. And there was one day where I chanted 0, and I was like, whoa, this is a complete difference. And then from that day, I never missed chanting. So I at least chanted 1, 2, 3 rounds a day. And then I would go to, so every time I would do like this, and I got purified like that. And then one day, I remember when I was at the farm, Dewey Buja Prabhu, this is Abhimanyu Sutta Prabhu's grandfather. He was like he's my mentor. He was my mentor. And he told me, because I was performing service. It was a Sunday. I was performing service with him. We were in the field, picking all the beets and potatoes for the feast. So I was helping him. And he told me, he said, you should come tomorrow, or you should come 2 days from now, or something like this, because there's going to be monks here. And I was like, whoa, monks? I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Because I heard of monks, but I never seen one in real life. And the only thing I knew about monks was like Buddhist monks or stuff like that. So I became very, very interested. And but I didn't have time, because I had school, I had work, I didn't know what to do. So I told him I'll try, but I wasn't actually trying to come. But then Chandan Acharya Prabhu, he's the one he's the Bhakta leader. He makes all the Bhaktas at Krishna Life. And he texted me, he said, hey, what's going on? Are you, he said Anthony or something like this, I don't remember. But he called me a different name. And I said, no, who is this? I didn't know who you are. He said, oh, do you remember me? I'm Chandan, the monk coach. I was like, no, I don't know who you are. I was like, yeah, sorry, Prabhu, I don't know who you are. And he was like, well, anyway, he said, I'm Chandanacharya, nice to meet you, and like this. And I was like, oh yeah, nice to meet you, Prabhu. During that time, I was learning all this, like Mataji and Prabhu and like that. But then he invited me. He said, you should come tomorrow. He texted me when I was at work. And then he said, you should come tomorrow to the farm so that you can meet us. And I was like, I was making so many excuses. I was like, I don't know. I have work, I have school. He's like, it's only for one day, just come, you should come, check us out. We won't be here for long, What if you miss one day of work, one day of school, what's the problem? And I said, yeah, you know what, you're right. I was like, you're right. Yeah, I should probably go. So I ended the call. That was a call. Ended the call. And then after work, I went back home and I laid down and I was like, man, now I promised this monk that I have to go see him tomorrow. And not only that, he wanted to see me at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, man, I really don't want to wake up early. But in my mind, I was like, I can't lie to this devotee. He's a devotee. For some reason in my mind, like during that time, like I cannot lie to devotees. Like I was like, these people are pure. I can't lie to them. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I have to go. So I woke up at like 5 a.m., took a shower, and then I started going to, making my way to the farm. It was 1 hour away. Then I made it there at like, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., something like that. I made it on time for Guru Puja. And then I met Chandanacharya Prabhu in the temple, and then he took me outside in the back of the temple, there's a pond, a sitting area. So he took me back there and he wanted to speak to me. I said, okay. So we spoke for some time. And the reason why he wanted to speak to me is because he wanted me to join him. So he, one by one, he asked me, okay, what's my goal in life? Who am I? What am I doing right now? And I said, yeah, I'm in high school. I have a job. What's my goal in life? I don't really have one. I don't know what I'm doing. I told him specifically, I was like, I want to be more detached. I told him something like that. I said, I want to be more detached. Yeah, something like that. And he said, okay. He said, why don't you come with us? He said, we're going back to Atlanta. We have a monk monastery there, and you could come join and see how life is like as a monk. And I told him, no, because I was like, I have work, I have school, I have all this. But then he was like, wait, you're saying all this, but you said you want to be detached. So how you're saying one thing, but then you're not doing it. And then like, he started to cut me down one by one. And then I was just looking on the ground and I was like, wow, he's right. I'm not detached and I'm trying to be detached. And this is the opportunity to be detached, but I'm not taking it. So he eventually made me realize how foolish I was. And then I looked up and I looked at him. He's like, why don't you just come just for a few days? And I said, okay, I'll do it. So, and I asked him, when are we leaving? I said, are we leaving tomorrow? He said, no, we're leaving right now. I was like, what? We're leaving right now? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, I guess we're going. And then I was like, what about my truck? I was like, because I had my car there. He's like, don't worry. You just keep it here. We'll come back. We'll drop you off. You'll be fine. I said, okay. So now he convinced me to get in the van. And before we're about to leave, there's this man named Krish. And he's a little crazy. So he wanted to stop me from getting into the van because he had experienced with Krishna life devotees before. And he was saying that these people are very bad. You shouldn't go with them. So he was trying to stop me from going. And I was like a little bewildered because like I'm about to get in the van and like the devotees are excited, like, yeah, we got a new bhakta. But then like there's this crazy man, like, oh no, like he shouldn't come, no. And like they're like, oh my gosh, But I just told him, no, it's okay. Okay, I just told him I'm going for a few days and that's it. And so anyway, I get in the van and then we leave. So then when I get to Krishna life, 3 days turned into 1 week. And then I had to go back to New Orleans because I was only supposed to stay for 3 days. But then my mom, I told her all this last second. I said, I said, hey mom, I'm going to go to Atlanta for 3 days. She's like, okay. So like, I just like left out of nowhere. And then like my job is calling me and stuff. And I was like, whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna quit my job. So I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to leave this society behind anyway. So then 3 days turned into 1 week because Chandan convinced me to stay longer. So I stayed for a week. But then I told him, I was like, look, Prabhu, I want to stay longer, but I can't, I have to go back because I have to graduate. And because I had to graduate high school. So my graduation. So actually there's a video on Life as a Monk of my graduation there. So they actually filmed the whole thing. So I go back to New Orleans and I graduate and I do the graduation. I graduate from high school. And as soon as I graduate from high school, my parents are waiting for me outside. And then, we have celebration, like, I say hello, hug them and all that. And then my mom tells me, she says, okay, are you ready to, she says, she's like, are you ready to go? And I was like, sorry, actually, I'm not going with you. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, actually, I told her everything there on the spot. Like, this was not everything on the spot. So I told her, I was like, no, sorry, I'm not going back with you. I'm leaving right now. I'm gonna go stay 3 months in Atlanta. And she was like, what? She was like, she couldn't believe it. My dad was like, they're just completely shocked, like what's going on. And like, they didn't look so happy. But, and they were like, can we go out to eat at least? And I said, sorry, I can't eat any of the food that you're going to eat. She said, don't worry, because she knew I was vegetarian at the time. She said, don't worry, we'll go to a vegetarian restaurant. I said, no. I said, I can't go with you. I told her, I can only eat blessed food. And so, meaning prasadam. But she didn't understand that at that time. So my family was very shocked that I told them all this. Now you can imagine, finally I graduated from high school and now my family is excited to celebrate. But now I'm telling them no. And they're all just like, what the heck is going on with this guy? Anyway, so I told them I'm leaving and they said, they were just, they really couldn't do much. I just said I'm leaving and they were just shocked. And so then they were like very upset, very sad. And I just left. I just left everything behind. And then when I left, that was pretty much it, honestly. Like since then, I never went back. I joined the Brahmacharya ashram completely, actually. As soon as I graduated high school, I joined immediately, literally. So I never looked back since then. And I never regretted my choice, honestly. It's been very blissful. Probably the best decision I ever made in my entire life, honestly. And now, obviously, my family, they support me. They encourage me. They're very happy, actually. My father, he gives donations to the temple. My mom came for my initiation like this. So they're very pleased what I'm doing. They understand that this is actually way better than what I used to do before. But that's pretty much it. How I came to Krishna consciousness. And now I just travel all around America, distributing books with Mahotsa Prabhu and Krishna Life devotees. Very ecstatic. So thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.